There's a kind of suffering that leaves no scars, no evidence, no proof that it was ever there. It lives in the silence between words, in the pause before sleep, in the moment when you realize that the world will continue without you and no one will notice the difference. This is not the suffering of physical pain or loss or tragedy. This is the suffering of understanding too much, of seeing too clearly, of being cursed with a consciousness that refuses to look away. The people who think too much do not carry their burden on their shoulders or in their hearts. They carry it in their minds, where every thought becomes a spiral. Every observation becomes an existential question, and every moment of peace is interrupted by the relentless machinery of awareness. This is the hidden suffering of those who cannot stop thinking, and it is written into the very architecture of what we are. The human brain, this 3-pound universe of neurons and synapses, evolved not for happiness, but for survival. Natural selection does not care about your joy or your peace of mind. It cares only that you survive long enough to pass your genes forward. And for most of our evolutionary history, survival meant constant vigilance, pattern recognition, threat assessment, and the ability to predict danger before it arrived. Our ancestors who could imagine the predator behind every shadow, who could obsess over every detail of their environment, who could run through endless scenarios of what might go wrong. Those were the ones who lived. The calm ones, the content ones, the ones who could sit peacefully without their minds racing through possibilities. They were eaten, forgotten, erased from the genetic record. And so we inherited a brain designed for anxiety, for overthinking, for the kind of rumination that kept our ancestors alive, but now keeps us awake at 3 a.m, replaying conversations from years ago and wondering if we said the wrong thing. The thinkers, the philosophers, the deeply introspective, they are not broken. They are exactly what evolution created. They are the descendants of the warriors, and their suffering is an echo of an ancient survival mechanism that is nowhere to go in the modern world. But there is something more tragic here than simple evolutionary mismatch. The people who think too much are not just running outdated software in a new environment. They have stumbled upon something far more disturbing, something that most people manage to avoid their entire lives. They have discovered that consciousness itself is a paradox, a biological accident that became aware of its own existence and immediately began to question whether it should exist at all. Think about it. Every other creature on this planet lives in the present moment, responding to stimuli, driven by instinct, existing without the burden of self-reflection. A wolf does not wonder if its life has meaning. A bird does not question the purpose of its existence. They simply are. But we, through some strange twist of evolutionary complexity, developed the capacity to step outside ourselves, to observe our own thoughts, to analyze our own existence. And in doing so, we created a prison. We became the first species capable of existential dread, the first to realize that we are temporary, that nothing we do will ultimately matter in the vast indifference of cosmic time, that we are conscious dust on a rock spinning through an uncaring void. And the people who think too much cannot escape this realization. They feel it in their bones in every quiet moment, in every instance of silence when the distractions fall away and they are left alone with the raw fact of their existence. Do you ever feel like consciousness was never meant to exist? Right, I've felt it too, if you understand. The neuroscience of overthinking reveals something both fascinating and horrifying. The brain regions associated with self-referential thought, the default mode network, those areas that activate when we're not focused on external tasks, but instead turned inward. These regions are hyperactive in chronic thinkers. Studies show that people who ruminate, who engage in excessive introspection, who cannot stop analyzing their own mental states, these people have default mode networks that refuse to shut off. Their brains are constantly generating narratives, creating stories about themselves, predicting future scenarios, rehashing past events, constructing and deconstructing their sense of identity. And here is the cruel irony. This same neural machinery that makes them suffer is also what makes them deeply creative, empathetic, insightful, capable of understanding nuance and complexity that others miss. The artists, the writers, the philosophers, the scientists who change our understanding of reality. They're often the same people who cannot quiet their minds, who lie awake at night drowning in thoughts. Their gift and their curse are the same thing. They see connections others do not see, patterns others do not notice, depths others cannot fathom. And this hypersensitivity to complexity means they can never experience the simple contentment of not questioning everything. And there is a loneliness in this that cannot be overstated. The people who think too much often find themselves isolated not by physical distance, but by psychological depth. They cannot participate in small talk without feeling like they are suffocating. They cannot engage in surface-level interactions without sensing the vast emptiness beneath the words. They listen to people discuss trivial matters, and they feel like aliens observing a species they no longer belong to. This is not arrogance or elitism. This is the exhaustion of carrying a weight that others do not feel. When you think too much, when you see too clearly, when you understand too deeply, you become separated from the world, not by choice, but by the sheer gravitational pull of your own awareness. You want to connect. You want to belong. You want to experience the lightness that others seem to carry so effortlessly, but you cannot. Your mind will not let you. It drags you back down into the depths, into the questions, into the endless analysis. And you watch from below as everyone else floats on the surface, wondering why you cannot join them. Psychology has documented this phenomenon through concepts like depressive realism, the idea that people with depression often have more accurate perceptions of reality than those without it, while optimism bias protects most people from the full weight of existential truth, allowing them to believe their lives matter more than they do, that they are more in control than they are, that the future will be better than statistics suggest. The chronic thinker does not have this protection. They see through the illusions. They recognize the defense mechanisms. They understand that most of what people call happiness is just successful self-deception, a carefully maintained ignorance of the darker truths of existence. And once you see this, once you understand that so much of human life is built on comforting lies and necessary delusions, you cannot unsee it. You are exiled from the kingdom of the blissfully unaware, forced to wander in a landscape where every light casts a shadow and every answer leads to 10 more questions. But here is where the darkness becomes beautiful, where the tragedy transforms into something almost sacred. The people who think too much, who suffer under the weight of their own consciousness, who cannot escape the relentless machinery of their minds, they are the ones who create meaning in a meaningless universe. They are the ones who write the poetry that captures what it feels like to be alive. They are the ones who compose the music that expresses emotions we cannot name. They are the ones who develop the philosophies that help us navigate the absurdity of existence. They are the ones who make the scientific breakthroughs that expand our understanding of reality. Their suffering is not pointless. It is the price of depth, the cost of awareness, the toll for being able to touch something true in a world built on comfortable fictions. And while they may never experience the easy contentment of those who do not question, they experience something else, something rarer and more profound. They experience moments of clarity so sharp it feels like seeing reality naked for the first time. They experience connections so deep with others who understand that words become unnecessary. They experience beauty so intense it hurts, the kind of beauty that only exists when you're fully aware of its impermanence. The hidden suffering of people who think too much is real. It is biological, it is psychological, and it is evolutionary. But it is also a doorway. On one side is the comfort of ignorance, the peace of not questioning, the lightness of living without the burden of consciousness examining itself. On the other side is the terrible gift of awareness, the ability to see what others cannot see, to feel what others cannot feel, to understand that existence is both a tragedy and a miracle happening simultaneously. Most people never reach this doorway, and those who do often turn back, choosing the safety of not knowing over the danger of understanding. But some walk through. They accept the suffering as inseparable from the insight. They carry the weight, knowing that this is what it costs to be awake in a sleeping world. They do not expect rescue or relief or someone to come and take the burden away. They simply continue thinking too much, feeling too deeply, seeing too clearly. And in doing so, they become the consciousness through which the universe examines itself. If you see beauty in the darkness of existence, you belong here. Subscribe if you want to keep exploring the places most people are afraid to look. We are building something rare, a space for those who understand that the deepest truths are often the most uncomfortable, that consciousness is both a gift and a wound, and that the people who think too much are not lost. They are simply further along a path that few have the courage to walk.